नमस्कार, कैसे हैं? Amazon संभव 2021 के डे 2 में मैं नीलेश मिश्रा, बदलते भारत का स्टोरी टेलर, आपका स्वागत करता हूं। कल हम कहानियों के एक अद्भुत सफर पर निकले और हमने भारत के अलग अलग प्रांतों से कई कहानियां सुनी। आज हम उसी सफर को आगे बढ़ाते हैं। Yesterday we heard global leaders and industry icons sharing their personal journeys, discussing future trends, and giving us an insight into what goes into the role that technology plays in unlocking infinite possibilities for a digital India. But our journey has only just begun. On day 2 today, we will hear industry leaders, small businesses, and Amazon experts talk on the theme of SMB enablement and exports. Also, do explore the Small Business Spotlight Zone to discover Amazon programs that are empowering small business. Visit our exhibit booths to interact with our partners, discover solutions for your businesses, and network with your peers. Listen in to our shortlisted participants of Entrepreneurship Challenge and Hackathon as they present their ideas to an elite jury panel. There's just so much fun, learning, and excitement in store for all of you over the next 3 days. कोविड-19 पैंडेमिक का बिजनेस और इंडस्ट्रीज पर जो प्रभाव पड़ा, इस विषय पर हमने कल बहुत सी बातें सुनी। पर जो एक चीज उभर कर सामने आई वो ये थी कि हर बिजनेस को ऐसे दौर से गुजरने के लिए सक्षम होना पड़ेगा। A successful business is not only built through a strong brand, but also through its ability to navigate through uncertain times. Joining us today is Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever, to give us some invaluable insights and tips on leading business through a global pandemic.
Hi everyone, it is a real pleasure speaking at the Amazon Sambhav Summit. Thank you Manish Tiwari and Amazon for inviting me. I've been asked to share my thoughts on leading a business through a global pandemic. Just a few weeks back, many of us imagined that we were about to be done with this crisis. But the crisis is surely not done with us. We must realize the pandemic is not over anywhere until it is over everywhere. Social, economic, and environmental issues that existed prior to the pandemic have now been pushed into stark focus. The major risk we face today is that advanced economies and a few emerging markets may recover faster, but many of the developing countries could languish for years to come. This would not only worsen the human tragedy of the pandemic, but also the economic suffering of the most vulnerable. However, history-altering events, however unfortunate they may be, have very often brought about change that has pushed the world order in a new direction. For instance, plague, also dubbed as Black Death, that wiped out a significant proportion of the world's population in the 14th century, resulted in better standards of living for everyone. The cholera pandemic in the early 19th century brought modern sanitation to the center stage. The Spanish flu in the early 20th century, around the same time of World War I, resulted in socialized healthcare systems being adopted by several nations, better disease surveillance, and more organized collection of health data. It is now more than a year since we realized that we were heading towards a major crisis. There was no playbook for a global crisis that threatened lives and well-being of a society with the potential to fundamentally reshape our world. We quickly determined that for any business to survive and thrive, the focus must be on a few critical areas. Let me dwell a bit more on where we put our focus. We in Hindustan Unilever have always believed that if you take care of your people will take care of your business. While this is a mantra that all businesses should live by at all times, the pandemic put people's safety front and center. We not only ensured that employees and workmen were safe and well, but we also took steps to ensure well-being of people who worked across extended operations. Based on global best practices, we set up tiered SOPs for health and safety in operations, accompanied with training and readiness drills to ensure that we minimize the risk of transmission across our value chain from suppliers to customers, while our office-based employees transitioned to work from home model even before the national lockdown. Therefore, put people first. The pandemic highlighted the need for a nimble supply chain that can be dynamically managed to cater to external changes. In fact, to stay agile and resilient, it brought home the point that businesses need collaboration, partnerships, and alliances. For instance, at HUL, we drove the fast recovery of operations through strategic partnerships. In some cases, even collaborating with manufacturers in other industries to meet the rising demand of some products. So, ensure supply lines remain open. With several consumer trends emerging out of the pandemic, such as home cocooning, need for health, hygiene and nutrition, e-everything, etc., being close to consumers and understanding shifts in demand had never been as important. We had to innovate, not only in products, but also in communication and route to market to stay relevant and cater to evolving consumer needs. Let me give you some examples. The production of sanitizers had to be ramped up by a factor of 100x. We launched over 50 new products and pack innovations to cater to the rapid changes in demand in hygiene and sanitization products. We crafted communication keeping in view the changing consumer sentiments. For example, Lifebuoy was the first brand to talk about the criticality of washing hands with soaps or sanitizers manufactured by any brand or company. The Brooke Bond Red Label campaign talked about being together even while being physically distant. The Vim campaign talked of men helping out in the kitchen, and the latest Surf Excel Holy campaign was about bringing people together in a physically distant world. So it's very important to keep your fingers on the pulse of the changing demand and to cater to it. COVID-related uncertainties impacted supply, demand, as well as liquidity. This meant business unusual on both growth and costs. The imperative for businesses was to maximize all growth opportunities, but manage costs, assuming a worst-case scenario of muted growth and even a potential recession. This was the time to rethink and build cost structures which are variable and sustainable. Businesses should use this opportunity and make brutal choices to save cost, cash, and release the bandwidth, but at the same time ensure that its extended value chain has the necessary financial support to maintain essential supply. So we need to optimize cash and costs. I have always believed that without a healthy society, there cannot be a healthy business. So when our Prime Minister called for support, HUL was amongst the first companies to earmark 100 crores to help the country fight the crisis. Our approach was focused. We helped strengthen healthcare infrastructure, reach the marginal sections of society with food and hygiene essentials, reduce prices of liquid soaps and disinfectants to make them more accessible, and use some marketing prowess to educate communities about the criticality of the right behaviors to be adopted during the pandemic. So it's very important to be compassionate and help the communities. With the above perspective, let me now dwell on what business could do to be effective in an ambiguous and chaotic world. First, put compassion at the center of leadership. 2020 has shown that it is urgent and necessary, not just desirable, to humanize leadership. The way we have been portraying, promoting, and practicing leadership for decades as a cocktail of vision, passion, and skills makes leaders ill-prepared to recognize and alleviate human suffering, let alone address the systemic issues that cause and perpetuate it. It is time for those who care for good leadership to put compassion at the center of leadership. People need care, not a battle cry, rightly said an associate professor at INSEAD. Second, be adaptive and resilient. We have realized that even with the best prediction models, we cannot predict our way to a no-risk world. This, therefore, means we must become far more adaptable. The crisis has shown adaptable teams retool in a matter of days. On the other hand, seemingly successful organizations with vast prediction capabilities paralyzed as the virus spread. During the crisis, many organizations driven by low cost, high efficiencies, and capacity utilization were caught on the wrong foot. These businesses need to determine which part of the value chain do they manage for costs and where do they build for redundancy so that it is resilient to shocks. Just as there is need for businesses to build adaptability and resilience, so is the need for nations. The Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative by the government is laudable in its vision of building a self-sufficient supply chain to not only secure businesses from external crises, but very importantly also ensure livelihoods are maintained. Third, respond to crisis with speed and agility. Everyone seems to be speaking about speed and agility, but this is easier said than done. Speed is not simply an attribute of an organization activity tied to clock time. Rather, speed is a complex, performance-enhancing organizational capability that requires a holistic approach to its development and execution. During a crisis, businesses must also demonstrate agility, a capability that allows the organization to pivot to adjacent or entirely new product domains. Organizational speed depends on three interconnected capabilities. First is the recognition speed. How quickly an external stimuli are recognized as an opportunity or threat. Second, decision speed. How quickly decisions for actions are made. And third, our execution speed. How quickly resources, people, and or processes are mobilized to support the action. Fourth, maximize the digital opportunity. The pandemic accelerated our nation's digital journey. Many of our fellow citizens moved to online for the first time, whether to get news or to source essentials. City children had the first taste of online schooling, and office goers adapted to working from home, leveraging remote collaboration tools. It moved us from a state of theoretical debate on whether it will work or not to real hands-on experience. We witnessed how enterprises that had adopted digital technologies in the core of the business were less impacted than others. Many SMEs in India are at low level of digitization, and there is growing awareness of the handicap it creates. The RBI's Financial Stability Report of July 2020 stated that it will be critical for small and medium businesses to navigate to a digital-first business model for the whole business value chain to survive and recover. In fact, leveraging technology in businesses will have a bigger impact on collective productivity gain that comes from widespread digitization, both from the transactional efficiencies and from the innovation multiplier that comes on top of our digitized processes. The true strength of Hindustan Unilever's prowess in technology and data-driven decision-making came to fore during the pandemic, when digital journeys managed to mitigate many of the challenges faced due to physical restrictions. For instance, Shikhar, which is our B2B ordering app, enabled hundreds of thousands of retailers to place contactless orders safely and provided them visibility into the fulfillment of these orders through logistic tie-ups and intuitive interfaces. The momentum on technology and digitization should be leveraged to make a fundamental shift in not only business processes, but also in education, in healthcare, in governance, in creating jobs, and easing the pressure on big cities while bringing development across the country. Fifth, live your purpose and values. Last but not the least, our purpose and values should be a guiding star. These are what defines us and drives us in good times and bad. The exigencies of crisis should not lead to compromising on our purpose and values. In fact, They enable the leader to keep a cool head amid chaos. There is a striking parallel between great crisis leaders and parents who must stay firm on values and principles while still giving their children space to develop, a very delicate balance. I have, ladies and gentlemen, tremendous belief in human ingenuity. We have the intellect, we have the science, we can create financial capacity, and we have a visceral instinct to survive. It is often said that smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. As we fight this crisis, we should look beyond just recovery. As Indians, we should embrace this crisis as an opportunity to craft a different and better future together. This is a moment that tests our humanity. It must be met with solidarity. Let us transform our economy into a frontier economy and make our country fairer, inclusive, and equitable, greener and sustainable, healthier and smarter, and very importantly, adaptable and resilient. Thank you so much for listening to me.